Take a look at this. This document, the Know Your Rights document with the Bernie Sanders tag at the bottom of the document. This document is pretty momentous and pretty amazing. The Bernie Sanders campaign, just before ICE raids were about to start, if any of his supporters were within a 20-mile radius, they got an email warning them of such, sending them with that tagline saying, "Know Your Rights." Welcome to the Soapbox. My name is Jamarl Thomas. This is the Progressive Soapbox. And yeah, when Mr. Bernie Sanders did that, that's a pretty momentous thing. I mean, most of these guys are pretty much just in tune within the politics of, I need to get elected. How do I get elected? But Bernie Sanders takes this extraordinary step, actually, of alerting people, saying, look, there are raids that are about to commence. Know your rights and be aware that these raids are about to take place. As you know, there's been a lot of, they call it issues, put it mildly. What Donald Trump has been doing within regard to the immigration and detention policy. It's true that this didn't necessarily start with Donald Trump. However, Donald Trump has made this issue dramatically worse, ripping babies from their mamas. And even when Trump went with this notion of we're only taking people who were criminals and everything else, that went by the wayside pretty quick as reports were coming out of them taking people who've been peacefully in this country for decades. Not to mention Donald Trump got rid of the DACA program, which immediately escalated this issue. Sanders doing this is something that no other campaign, I don't think, would have even considered doing, even thought about doing. But in his case, he wants to get involved in the notion of movement building. Along with that Know Your Rights document, Sanders also sent along a message. Multiple news outlets are reporting that Immigration and Customs Enforcement are planning deportation raids against immigrant families in Atlanta, Baltimore, Chicago, Denver, Houston, Los Angeles, Miami, New Orleans, New York City, and San Francisco starting early Sunday morning. The email, obtained by Vox, reads, "Whether or not you're an immigrant, please share this Know Your Rights information widely to help those who might fall victim into the cruel and inhumane policies of the Trump administration." And cruel and inhumane they are. Cruel and inhumane they are. I agree with people when they argue that what Trump is doing is concentration camps. Yes, it is. It is the America's version of a concentration camp. My only issue is the quibbling with the Hitler stuff. I don't like the Hitler stuff. I read too much about Hitler and it's stuck in my head about what he was, who he was. All right, but shout out to Sanders. This video is not meant to be long. This video is just kind of a heads up of, wow, that he uses email for this. It's a movement building operation. It goes beyond just trying to win a political campaign. Sanders, beyond all other candidates, have been strong on this notion of you will get no change without having a movement pushing the political apparatus for that change. How do you get people to change a political disposition when the only thing you have are words? You do have something else. You have public will. And if those people believe that they are going to lose their job, that's called leverage. And if that person may potentially lose their job because there is a large segment of the population that will not vote for them, regardless of who they're running against, that's the first point. But would also that vote for them within the context of a primary. That person may be more amenable to what you are pushing if they believe that there is a public sentiment and a public will in order to get those things over the finish line. Sanders, more than any other candidate, no other candidate has approached it from this angle, which gets across a certain unreality that those candidates are living in. If those candidates believe they're going to get somehow political change in the country without having the backing of the public in order to force a lot of people who don't agree with you to give you that change. You could say they're not giving you anything to compel that change. Shout out to Sanders. Shout out to Sanders. Yeah, usually they use their email list just to get money. And in this case, he was using his email list in order to actually try to spare people the inhumane treatment of the U.S. government with regards to the immigrants that are in this country. Shout out to Sanders. And by the way, the person whose name was attached to this was a woman named Belen Cisa. Belen Cisa herself is an undocumented immigrant. She's Sanders' press secretary. She's out in the open in hostile territory. She's out in the open and in hostile territory. I'm trying to see, is there anything else? This was very basic and very straightforward. The subject line, know your rights. Know your rights. All right, I'll leave it here. This one wasn't meant to be long and I have other stories. I just wanted to give a shout out to this because I like this. There are certain stories where I like to give a shout out to because I think they're positive stories. And in a certain degree of solidarity and a certain degree of resistance. And whether Sanders fully agrees with all of this stuff is almost less important than whether he's willing to choose what he understands is a large demographic that he's going to need to get elected and that the Democratic Party relies on. It means that he's not turning a 10 ear to issues that are affecting the population that he himself will be required to marshal if he wants to get into office. One shout out to Mr. Bernie Sanders. Thanks all.